So if you're wondering why we're talking about potentially going to war with Venezuela, you're not alone. This is breaking. This is new news just coming out in the last day or two. So let's talk about this. This is a U.S. congressman from Florida saying Venezuela is not controlled by a government. It has been taken over by a narco-T cartel, El Cartel de los Soles. Maduro is the ringleader of this criminal organization. He's the president. He's the heir or the successor to Hugo Chavez. Chavez took Venezuela and just destroyed it. He nationalized all the oil refineries and gave out money like candy and just destroyed his state. Venezuela used to be a prime power in its region, and it's now in shambles, and it has been. But they're kind of a drug trafficking operation as much as anything else, in the same way that Russia is a gas station masquerading as a state. They're drug traffickers. Maduro is the ringleader of this criminal organization responsible for illegal drug trafficking into the United States and the deaths of many Americans, says this congressman on Fox News this morning at 10 a.m. Okay, so what else is happening? Well, that's being said on the news, and then we're seeing things like this. The U.S. is massing reconnaissance aircraft near Venezuela as the U.S. deploys nearly a dozen ships to the region. So that's a sign. There's another sign with the types of planes that are being there. Puerto Rico now hosts a detachment of Navy P-8A Poseidons conducting surveillance and gathering intelligence across the Caribbean. So when you see certain things start to line up, it's not saying that it's going to happen, but it's indicative that something might happen. It's a greater possibility or probability. This is saying, I think this is overplaying it, this particular post. U.S. forces are deploying around Venezuela in preparation for a massive invasion that will take Caracas, the capital of Venezuela, and arrest or kill dictator Maduro. Now, there is this is, again, overstating. There is a $50 million bounty on Maduro, but to say that they're about to invade and take Caracas seems like a bit of a stretch. Here's Ian Bremer, the political scientist, and here's his analysis of it. We'll hear him. We'll hear a couple of others as well, including Preston Stewart and Ryan McBeth, give their views on some things, and then you'll just triangulate and see what you think is legitimate.
Imagine that Trump would be interested in a big military adventure when he's trying to broker ceasefires in other places. So I think anything we would see would be akin to what the United States did in Iran. A
short, limited kind of war, doing its very surgical strike to try to do this one thing and get out, not to go to war with Venezuela for a long sustained period of time, but to try to accomplish a narrow objective.
Big, sudden show of force, lots of strikes, Tomahawk missiles, bombers, you name it, but certainly not weeks and weeks of military engagement. Even a massive but sustained air campaign, I think, would be very surprising. So it'd be contained in that way. But there's no question that the military assets that you're putting in the region offer a lot more than what's required for naval interdiction of drug trafficking. So Trump is not just trying to say, I'm dealing with the cartels. He clearly is interested in projecting force more broadly against Maduro.
It's a show of force, certainly. Now, Maduro's a bad guy. He's a big friend of the Russians, and I'll show you that in a little bit, tied to some way with the Iranians. Ooh, like, you know, all the bad kids, they all get together. Like, this was true at school. This is true here, right? Who you hang out with is who your friends are, is who you are as well. So, you know, you have Putin, and in his orbit is Iran and China and North Korea and Venezuela, who religiously votes with Russia in the UN, that sort of thing.
And, you know, I think that Maduro is going to be very, very careful here. We've seen that in, Guyana, incredibly oil rich. Maduro has said that that's actually his territory. He's made claims on it, lots of saber rattling, but the United States, the Brits, and others have kept him from actually doing anything. He's just used it for domestic politics. This is all worth.
Okay, and so that was within the last year or so when Maduro was going to do that, and the war almost kicked off there. And so, okay. And he's saber rattling for domestic politics. So was Saddam. Like Saddam was threatening the U.S., trying to show how big and tough he was to Iraq or to Iran, but that became kind of problematic. Okay, a little bit more. Maduro regime is going to fall, says Venezuela's main opposition leader. The U.S. has put a $50 million bounty on Maduro. My view: let's get the show on the road. Diplomacy doesn't work with dictators. Talking to tyrants is like trying to reason with a virus. It's a great line, but this diplomacy doesn't work with dictators. And you might be saying, if you watch my channel regularly, because I talk about Ukraine and Russia more than anything else, you might be saying, well, why doesn't he do this with Russia? I don't know. But with others, he takes a different tact. He being Trump. And yeah, maybe something will happen. We just don't know. U.S. Navy and Marines are heading to the Caribbean Sea to destroy the drug trade from Venezuela by the narco-socialist regime. We'll see what goes there. This is Preston Stewart talking about the $50 million bounty on his head. And then we also see Preston talk about what is being sent there. And this was great. Go watch the rest of Preston Stewart's video here. Venezuela deploys forces to face the U.S. Let's just listen to like a minute or so of it.
Labeled Maduro the head of a cartel and increased the reward to $50 million for any information leading to his arrest. So we can't separate that entirely from the arrival of U.S. military vessels off the coast of Venezuela. But continuing on with the deployment of U.S. assets in the region, looking at Ian Ellis here, citing USNI. We've got the guided missile destroyer USS Lake Erie. We've got the Iwo Jima Amphibious Ready Group is underway en route to Southcom. That's the USS Iwo Jima, the USS Fort Lauderdale, and the USS San Antonio. Included in that is the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit with 2,200 Marines. So we've got the USS Gravely. These are guided missile destroyers. The USS Jason Dunham, and then the USS Minneapolis St. Paul, which is a littoral combat ship, and then the USS Sampson, another guided missile destroyer, is still south of Panama. And it sounds like the fast attack submarine remains unidentified, but several have been active off the coast in August, off the east coast of the United States in August, and then we've got reconnaissance aircraft overhead. That is a sizable deployment, no matter how you look at it. Again, the stated mission set from the United States is counter-drug, stopping the trafficking of fentanyl north, but that's a lot of firepower to arrive off of someone's coast. Now, the middle ground here is the idea that this is really just trying to pressure the Maduro regime, maybe pressure some folks inside the government to stand up and topple Maduro, or maybe pressuring Maduro to take different actions day in and day out. And that's the stance taken by Phil Gunson of the International Crisis Group.
And I think that's probably what's most likely to happen. I don't think that there's going to be a huge invasion. I think there might be some limited strikes, but we'll give you another view of this with Ryan McBeth in just a moment. This, interestingly, Defense Index shows this. These forces are massing near Venezuela. An operation to capture Nicolas Maduro could happen sooner than anyone expects. But I'm showing you about 20 seconds of this to show you like how Venezuela is connected to the rest of the world. Look at this.
The U.S. has now explicitly declared its plans for a military operation and has offered a $50 million reward for the arrest of President Nicolas Maduro. It is important to note that Venezuela sits on the world's largest oil reserves, yet its economy has collapsed under harsh international sanctions.
Well, it collapsed way before the harsh international sanctions. It collapsed when Hugo Chavez nationalized the oil and then stole it and then kind of ran it into the ground where it was a thriving country.
Oil exports face severe restrictions, with the majority of its trade now limited to partners like China, India, and select Latin American countries. Any country engaging in this trade also risks facing heavy U.S. sanctions.
Yeah, China, India, Russia. Isn't it interesting, the group that they're hanging out with? Okay. And this is interesting commentary as well. Russia is completing its ammunition plant in Venezuela with capacity to produce up to 70 million Russian Kalashnikov cartridges annually. That's 200,000 rounds per day, enough to supply a mid-sized army nonstop. When was this taken? Well, back in July 4th of 2025. We're only talking less than 2 months ago. Okay, so they're doing that sort of thing. Russia's ammunition plant. in Venezuela. And then if you go back even further in time, this is Anton Gerashenko looking at Wagner mercenaries in Venezuela. A video appeared online. It showed a Russian mercenary working on the side of Maduro's law enforcers in Venezuela. Locals report that Wagner has been present in Venezuela for several years. Reportedly, they're part of Maduro's prime security circle and are involved in training militia as well as securing Russian surveillance bases. Reportedly, there are other Russian forces that are present in Venezuela as well for military training and other tasks. When did he post this? Back in August 1st of 2024. So the Russians have been there for a long time. They're buddies, the Venezuelans and the Russians. All right. I promised that we'd say, I see another view from Ryan McBeth. Here's his view.
What the heck is going on in Venezuela?
The United States sent several destroyers to the Caribbean Sea,
Supposedly to stop drug smuggling and for an anti-cartel mission. Now, there is a rumor
that the U.S. is building up some sort of confrontation with Nicolas Maduro.
who is the president of Venezuela.
The U.S. even posted a $50 million reward for his arrest.
Under the idea that Nicolas Maduro is just a really big drug trafficker and the head of a narco state. So I kind of think that sending ships and a marine amphibious unit to the Caribbean Sea is just kind of a way of saying, like, we can flex on you and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. By the way, please stop any drug running inside your country.
And it looks like Venezuela got the message and they're kind of making a show of doing something regarding drug smuggling.
So the question here is the U.S. going to invade Venezuela? And the answer to that is probably not, and the reason is this guy right here.
He might look like every guy who ever fired your dad.
But he's actually the Undersecretary of Defense. His name is Elbridge Colby, and he is laser focused on fighting China.
And he's focused on fighting China to the tune that he was the guy behind stopping the supplies to Ukraine not too long ago.
Right now.
Remember a few weeks ago when we froze Ukrainian weapons shipments? That was this guy.
So any kind of action we would take in Venezuela right now to overthrow the government or invade would degrade our capability of countering China. It would cost a lot of munitions to invade Venezuela.
To me, the real question is why the heck are we sending guided missile destroyers?
I'm pretty sure we developed the littoral combat ship to operate in the littorals, those coastal waters, doing the whole anti-piracy, counter-drug, show the flag kind of thing. So I'm not sure why we're not seeing LCSs there.
Now, Venezuela does have Iranian missiles.
Now, here's the thing. If you're not actually trying to accomplish that mission, but you're trying to flex in order to show that you're big and bad and tough and you better step down, maybe that's the reason.
Missile boats, so that could be a reason. And the LCS wasn't really designed to interdict missiles. And you're going to want that capability if you're protecting amphibious landing ships with Marines on them.
But to me, that's actually the real story behind Venezuela. Like, didn't we build a ship to do this? And if so, where the heck is it?
Okay.
What the
So it may be less likely in his view. Okay. Well, we'll see how this all plays out. It'll be interesting, but now you know the basic facts behind this. So thank you to Ian Bremer. Thank you to Defense Index. Thank you to Ryan McBeth. Thank you to Preston Stewart for helping us understand what we're seeing here. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Darren Gerdes. I spend time generally talking about the war in Ukraine. And if that's something that you're interested in, please consider subscribing. Thank you for the time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. Thank you for being the kind of person that cares about the world that you live in.